Hey friends and family, welcome back to the vlog. Today's episode of Vlogmas is going to be a little bit different because I'm going to be sharing with you some tips for taking cute holiday photos along the way. If you want to just see the tutorial parts, you can skip to these time codes, which are going to be listed in the description below. But if you're a real friend, you'll watch the whole vlog, because why not? It's really fun. So let's get into some tips for taking super cute Christmas photos, but first, let's go to the Christmas market. Major challenges of taking cute photos for Christmas is that it gets dark super early, and so you end up in really low light conditions. So the first tip I want to give you are some strategies for taking cute photos even when you don't have really good lighting. So here we go. We're here just grabbing some pictures of Katie. The first tip that I have for you when you're shooting at night, because it gets dark really early around Christmas time, is to find some Christmas lights and get your subject's face as close to these lights as possible, because that's going to illuminate their face a lot more than if they were just out in the dark somewhere. The second tip is to get a lens like this that allows you to have a really low f-stop. So this one goes as low as f1.8. So that's going to open up your aperture a lot and allow you to have much more light hitting the sensor. And finally, if you have another light, like somebody's phone, shine it on the face of your subject so that you can really light them up and make them stand out from the background a little bit more. So those are my tips for shooting when it's dark out, like at a Christmas market. Let's go see what other kinds of photos I can get while we're here.
So here's the tip that I have. Just go to your neighborhood light up box with mistletoe inside and take your photos there. All set.
Here we are at the Christkindl market. You can't hear a word I'm saying because it's so loud here, but we're having lots of fun, taking lots of photos, and then we're gonna head home because it's pretty cold outside. Good morning. Today I am going to be wrapping some gifts, which honestly is one of my favorite parts of this whole Christmas thing. I love the surprise and the anticipation of like not knowing what's under the tree. I grew up in a family that didn't do Santa Claus at all, so part of the excitement of Christmas for me was seeing the Christmas gifts gradually being added to the collection under the tree in the weeks leading up to Christmas. So that's what I love to do too. After I wrap these gifts, I'm gonna show you some tips and tricks for taking a super cute Christmas flat lay and how you can style it to make it look like those beautiful photos that you see online. So let's wrap some gifts. Okay, here's where it's gotta become stealthy because I know Dan is gonna watch this and I don't want him to see what I got him, so I'll come back to you once the presents are wrapped. Alright, now that I've got my gifts wrapped, it's time to give you a couple tips on how to take some cute holiday themed flat lays. First thing to keep in mind with any good flat lay is that you want to work with odd numbers of objects. Unless you're going for a very Wes Anderson equal on both sides kind of image, you're gonna have a lot easier time styling it and making it look natural if you have an odd number of things. So I'm gonna grab 3 gifts for my picture. The next thing you wanna do is bring in objects that vary in size. So you don't want everything to be really small or everything to be really big because it's gonna be hard to style that in a way that looks natural and has a flow to it. I usually like to bunch things up in certain areas and kind of arrange things around each other so nothing really looks like it's floating out in the middle of nowhere, but at the same time it doesn't look like it's all clumped in one area. The other tip that I have for you is to try to keep in mind the story of the image. Something that I see so often online with flat lays is just a collection of totally random stuff that doesn't have anything to do with each other, like a book and a wooden spoon and like Christmas lights. Unless that was for like a recipe book of holiday recipes, that would be kind of a weird collection of things. So try to keep in mind what sort of scene you're trying to portray with your picture and keep related objects in that scene. Even if it's not totally realistic, like let's say you're taking a flat lay that looks like it's supposed to be on a bed. Yeah, most people don't keep a succulent or a candle on their bed, but it's all part of the sort of bedroom lifestyle feel. It's all part of that story, so it fits together with the theme. Finally, my last tip is just to keep arranging stuff until you feel happy with how it looks. It's gonna take some time and some practice to get comfortable with it, but eventually you will take some holiday photos that you really love. And that's how you make a cozy holiday flat lay. Alright, welcome to the cozy editing corner. Here I am with my Christmas tree and the gifts that I'm like so excited to open. A really important part of taking really awesome holiday photos is editing them in a way that makes them feel cozy and warm and Christmassy. So now I'm gonna show you how I edited these photos that I took at the Christmas market and of the flat lay. This is especially important for images that you took that might be a little dark and you wanna bring back some light and life and really make them shine. So I'm gonna show you some tips for doing that today in Lightroom. I'm gonna be doing this on my computer, but the Lightroom mobile app has a lot of the same capabilities that I'm gonna be showing you right now, so feel free to follow along on your phone. You can get that for free. If you're interested in getting Lightroom on your computer though, or any other Adobe products, you can check out my Adobe affiliate link in the description, and if you make a purchase through that link, then I get a little bit commission. It would help me out and support the channel. So you can go to katiesteckly.com/Adobe if you wanna get this on your computer. That being said, let's dive into the editing. So here's the flat lay image that I took that I have decided to go with for editing. You can see it's a little dark, but I decided to shoot it slightly underexposed so that the candles and the lights wouldn't be overexposed. When you're shooting in RAW on any DSLR, you want to aim for a little bit of underexposure because that's going to preserve any detail. But if you overexpose something and it's completely blown out white, you'll never get that back. That being said, the first step that I'm gonna do is actually cropping this picture because the goal is to post this to Instagram, and so I want it to be either square or vertical 4x5 so that it fits in the feed best. I think this one is gonna do best as a square, so I'm just gonna start by cropping it and dragging it until I'm happy with the composition. All right, the next step is gonna be changing the exposure because it does kind of feel a little bit dark and moody, which is a vibe, but maybe not what we're trying to do here. So I'm just gonna start by bringing up the exposure a tiny bit. And you can already see it is so much brighter, and because we shot in RAW, there's still a lot of detail in these shadows. I'm actually gonna bring the contrast down because I kind of feel like if something's too high contrast, it feels harsh and maybe not that warm holiday glow that I'm trying to convey with this image. I am gonna bring the highlights up a little bit because I do want it to feel kind of light and bright. And the shadows, I think I'm also gonna lift just the tiniest bit. In general, Lightroom editing is all about subtle changes so that you don't go overboard and make something look crazy like this or this, so just very subtle changes. I'm gonna bring up the whites also a little bit just to make it brighter, and I'm gonna leave the blacks, I think, where they are. Moving into the color section, for this, I'm actually gonna change the white balance a little bit. I don't normally do this because, especially if there's a person in the photo, the skin tones are gonna start to look funny, but I do wanna bring the white balance on this photo just a little bit warmer because I do think it makes it feel a little bit more cozy, which is sort of the theme of the picture. Again, I don't usually change the tint, but I am actually gonna make it just the tiniest bit more pink or magenta because I think that, again, it makes it feel warmer and there's no skin tones in this photo to mess with. Now we get to my favorite panel, which is the color mixer. I love this because you could individually change the hue, saturation, or luminance of each individual color. So I'm gonna start with red, my favorite color, and I'm actually gonna take these reds a little bit more pink, and you'll see that the poinsettia and the reds in the wrapping paper really start to pop out. So that's maybe a little bit too far, but like right around here I feel like is a really nice shade. I'm gonna leave the saturation and luminance the same. Actually, we'll see, let's pop up the saturation a little bit. Not too far, but like plus 12. Again, because there's no skin tones in this picture, it's something that you can really play with. All right, now I'm gonna pop over to yellow, which kind of represents the candle flame and the string light colors here. And I'm just gonna play around with that till I see what I think looks good. Yeah, this is almost like a bit too red. So I'm actually gonna bring it towards green a little bit so that it becomes more of like a true yellow. Finally, I'm gonna go to green, which is the next really dominant color in this picture. And I really like to change the hue of my greens over towards like yellow a little bit. That's just my preference in a lot of editing. I think it looks better than making it like teal like this. So that's kind of weird. So I'm just gonna make it like this more sort of mellow green. And I think I'm gonna turn the saturation down slightly. Finally, the only other thing I'm gonna change is in effects. I'm just gonna put a little bit of grain in there because I think that looks kind of fun and filmy. And you could only really tell if you look closely and then shift your grain level. You can see it especially on the name tag there. Anyway, I'm just gonna do a subtle amount. I think to finish it off, I am gonna bring the highlights up just a little bit more and maybe the entire exposure just the tiniest bit. All right, and with those final tiny adjustments there, this is my final image. I'm pretty happy with it. I think it has a fun holiday vibe, and if we compare it to the original, you can see that we've made a big difference here in making it a little bit more cozy, a little bit more Christmassy. All right, so that's the holiday flat lay. That's probably the easiest photo to edit out of all of the ones that I took in this video. So let's move on to some pictures from the holiday market. These are really hard to perfect because it is so dark out, but hopefully the tips that I mentioned earlier would have helped you get as much light as possible while you're taking these. So the first one that I'm gonna show you as an example is this photo that I took of my friend Sarah. I think this is super cute. I had her get right up in the Christmas tree and almost pretend like she was putting an ornament or looking at the tree. So I think this is a really good starting point. She's got a lot of light on her face, and we're just gonna do some basic tweaks to make it feel a little bit more warm and cozy. So again, the first thing that I do when I'm editing a photo for Instagram is crop it. This one is gonna be 4x5 because I think that fits the composition quite well, actually. I might even bring it in a little bit more so her eyes are right on the thirds line. I'm happy with that. Now we're gonna go through and make some basic adjustments. I think I'm gonna bring up the exposure just the littlest bit, really not a lot, because it is sort of supposed to be, you know, dark and light contrast in this photo. Speaking of contrast, I am gonna decrease it the tiniest bit. And the highlights will bring up. Shadows, I actually am gonna bring down a little bit. And I think I'm gonna leave the whites and blacks where they are. In general, I'm pretty happy with the original exposure that I got from this image, so I'm not gonna do a ton of changes. Already you can see it's pretty subtle. It just brings out the light on her face a little bit more. Temperature-wise, let's see if we can bring it a little bit warmer. Not too warm though, because I don't wanna mess with her skin tones. And then going into the color mixer, something that I want to try with this image is taking this yellow and making it a little bit more gold. So I'm just going to take the hue slider and move it towards the orange. And I really kind of like that. It's certainly a look. You can definitely see that the tree becomes like not really green anymore, but I don't think I'm really bothered by that. Like I kind of like that there's a golden hue to the light. So now let's contrast that with the original. Even though it definitely has an edited look to it, I think that I like the sort of golden light vibe rather than keeping it that closer to natural sort of look. So a big part of this photo, of course, are her beautiful eyes. So I'm gonna zoom in actually and just bring out a little bit more of that glitter and the contrast. So the way that I'm gonna do that is by creating a brush that's like about the size of her like iris, I think is what that's called. And then I'm gonna go through and make some of these adjustments. So some of these are like already here from the last time. I'm actually gonna make the contrast a little bit, bring the highlights up, blacks down a little bit, clarity we're gonna like leave at 0, and then sharpness, noise I'm gonna bring to 0 as well, and sharpness I'm really gonna increase because basically I want her eyes to like really pop. So we'll just see how this goes. So I always check by like zooming out and being like, now, how does it look? I feel like I could have gone even more intense with it. All right, I think I'm happy with this. I really like how it makes her eyes stand out just a little bit more, even though it's still very subtle and very natural looking. So basically all I did was make a brush that increased the clarity and the sharpness and then just drew it on her iris. So let's compare this whole image to the original. I think I'm pretty happy with it. It definitely has a cozy, Christmassy vibe. So this is a pretty subtle edit, but it's just a couple tactics you can use to make it look a little bit different and bring out that warm Christmas spirit. All right, the next photo I'm gonna show you is one that I took of my friend Katie. I loved this setting with the Christmas lights all over this box and the little mistletoe thing in the middle. So this is really cool, just her standing in the center and looking up at the light. This is great because it's casting some light on her face. So again, the first thing I'm gonna do is crop it to 4x5. And I think I'm gonna go with this. I'm actually gonna try the auto straightening. Yeah. Because there's a lot of lines in this, so I want it to look good. Okay, I think I'm happy with that crop. So again, I start in the light section. I'm gonna try bringing up the exposure just a little bit, but not a ton. And I actually am gonna increase the contrast this time because I want like the sky behind it to actually be dark. Highlights, we're gonna increase a little bit just to make those lights a little bit lighter, and the shadows, again, I'm actually gonna bring down. I'm gonna try bringing the white balance up just a little bit, but not a ton, because I still want the snow to look white. And again, I'm gonna take these yellows and bring them a little bit towards orange, because I think that kind of has a cute look to it. Overall, I'm pretty happy with the coloring in this image, and now again, I want to do a couple brush adjustments to make Katie stand out from the background a little bit more. So I'm gonna zoom in, I'm gonna make a new brush, and I'm gonna increase the size a little bit. And instead of increasing the clarity so much, because that's gonna look really stark, I'm gonna increase the sharpness a little bit, and I am going to increase the exposure and the contrast. Because basically I want to make her a little bit brighter, and I'll bring the highlights up a little bit too. And then I'm just gonna like paint it on and see. Yeah, it definitely makes her a bit brighter, so that's good. I'm just gonna kind of bring it onto her jacket. I probably won't do all the way down because it wouldn't look natural if her like feet were really bright. So obviously up close like this, maybe that looks kind of funny. But I'm gonna like zoom back, and now you'll see that it really looks like there's light being cast on her face. If we compare it to the original, you know, it's obviously a lot more natural and her face is kind of in the dark. Now it really draws the eye to her as a subject rather than just to the glowing light orb in the sky. So I'm pretty happy with that overall. I am just gonna like sharpen the image a little bit altogether. And I think I'm happy with that edit. I think I'm gonna leave it like that because I think it looks pretty cool. I like that the eye is drawn to her face. At the end of the day, I know that if I like zoom in really close, does that look perfect? No, like she is very grainy. Like that's kind of the fact of shooting in low light like this, but this is a photo for Instagram. It doesn't have to be perfect. Right now I'm looking at it on a screen way bigger than somebody would ever see it because people are gonna be looking at it on a screen this big. So to me, it's not a really big deal, but that's maybe the difference between me and a professional photographer because this is for social media. I don't believe it has to be perfect, and you're trying to make it look good at a distance and small. So that's kind of my approach to it. So these are the photos that we edited. A really cute flat lay, a great portrait of my friend, and another great portrait of another friend. I think these are all cool, unique photos, and hopefully you learned a little bit about editing in Lightroom from each one. Thank you so much for watching this vlog tutorial combo. I hope you had some fun with me at the Christmas market and taking all these pictures. If you use these tips and post some cute photos to your Instagram, leave your Instagram handle in the comments and I will go check it out and comment on your Christmas photos. If you want some more Instagram tips, go ahead and check out this video. YouTube thinks that you would like it. Before you go, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of my future videos. I try to upload twice a week, and if you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, then you won't miss a single one. As always, I hope you're having adventures and following your dreams, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!